And we're back with another Sculpt Session Sunday. I'm your host, Sash, and I am here with the beautiful, wonderful Mandizzle with the shizzle. Say hi.
Hey guys.
So today we are coming to you with the last Sculpt Session Sunday of 2025, and there's no better way to end off this year than to talk about things and habits that we're gonna leave in this year. And this isn't a podcast where I'm like, new year, new me, whatever, whatever. No, we're gonna talk real and raw about things that just don't serve us and don't have any value, and there's no reason to carry them into the new year. This is very specific for the girlies that want to make significant changes in their lives, that want 2026 to be their year. And you probably said that at the beginning of 2025. And if you made a shot and like gave it some effort, by all means, great, awesome. But I feel like everyone could relate that 2025 through its own whirlwind at everyone in one way or another. And I don't doubt that 2026 is going to have its own surprises, maybe great, maybe not so great, but there are things that we can control, and that is what we allow in our lives, what things and what habits we decide to continue having, and what we want to let go of. So, no more half in, half out BS. And we're just going to jump right into this, starting with the first one, and that is people pleasing. And this is a huge habit that I will be leaving behind in 2025. All of these are in one way or another, we have either had in the past, we've seen come up in certain ways in this year, or we just don't want to bring into next year. So, like I said, starting strong with people pleasing. And this is very specific, not to, helping other people or doing things for others, because that's not the problem. The problem is when you do things for others, when you know that you don't want to, and when it directly negatively impacts you. There's nothing wrong with helping your friends. There's nothing wrong with helping your fam. There's nothing wrong with making other people happy and wanting other people to be happy. But there is a problem when that starts to negatively impact you, negatively impact your goals, your mindset. It disrupts your own boundaries. It creates disrespect for yourself, and it's not selfish to have those boundaries. So, Mans, was there a time this year that you felt yourself people pleasing? And if so, how are you going to make sure that in 2026 you don't allow that to happen? Like, what sign do you notice about yourself when you go into that people pleasing that you're like, no, got to pull out of that, not doing that again?
Yeah, we talked about this a little before, but it definitely manifests as feelings of anxiousness for me. Like in my body, I just get like a little jittery. I'm like, this doesn't feel right. And also kind of mentioning it that where it manifests for me in 2025 was staying in a coaching company that was no longer in alignment with not just me, but I felt it affecting my clients. And
Mhm.
those are my girls. Those are my babies. Like that, like to an extent, I think that people pleasing was like, hey, like I'm friends with my boss. She's going in a new direction. I want to contribute. I want to see the growth of for her, for all of us, for the company, for whatever, but it just at the same time also did not feel right to me. And it took a few months because I'm like, man, I'm in this world, like what do I do? But at the same time, at the end of the day, it was like it doesn't feel right to me, number one. Number two, I feel like some of my girls are becoming a little, I don't want to, it's not distant, but I could just tell they weren't feeling the full benefits that they were prior when
Yeah.
it was myself independently. So I made the choice to branch off and be an independent coach again. And honestly, it felt so good, not just really cemented that that was the choice, the right choice for me, for us. And I'm leaving that behind in 2025. We're not doing that in 2026. And since making that choice, it's only been growth and abundance and all good things.
I love that. I love that. I can totally relate to that because I similarly, I mean, left from the same thing. So I can relate to that of, not wanting to because there were some friendships and like not knowing how that was going to be affected. But then there just came to a point where I was like, I need to do what's best for me. And to also add on to that, another way that people pleasing really came up for me this year was, and I spoke about this a little bit on Mandy's podcast, for me in like personal life things where I felt like I was people pleasing in order to keep certain people in my life. And these people had a lot of importance in my life, being my family. And I noticed that for me, that was not something that I can keep doing because it just did not feel right. Like what you said, I would get anxious. I would get this like ball of anxiety, like these not butterflies, not good feelings. Like it was just very bad feelings every time. I was like sucking my teeth. I couldn't. It was just not good feelings, and that was not good feelings towards family. So learning to not people please, learning to not play into certain games just because of who they are and like what value, not value, but like who they are in my life, like what relationship we have, just really learning how to stand my ground and like have that to my have that self-awareness. And that ties me into the next point that I want to hit, and that is consuming negative content, but also consuming negative people. And that is something that
Mm.
is not getting brought into 2026. That is something that everyone should be leaving behind because on one hand, on the negative content, it's the doom scrolling, it's the listening to other people's trauma on social media. It's, I'm sorry to say, but like watching the news and being super invested and involved in that. Like there's a layer of things that I do that I am involved in because I want to make sure that I'm educated as far as what's going on in the world, in my circle, in my life, whatever. But I try to not go further than that because I notice that when I start getting super invested and involved in things that are going on everywhere at the same time, like all over social media, all the sad things of like animals and this and that and whatever, like it truly takes a really big toll on me. And I don't want this to sound like I'm being dismissive of the things that are going on in the world because my heart goes out to all of them. But I also understand that in for me, that very much negatively impacts me. And where I can't do anything to help or make changes, I have to focus on other things. So not consuming content that is negatively impacting you. If seeing a bodybuilder being super lean negatively impacts you while you're in your off season, don't consume that content. If seeing someone eating food while you're dieting and can't have that food negatively impacts you because it triggers you, don't consume that content. Really be picky about what it is, who you follow, what you consume, because that's what pops up in front of your eyes. That's what then goes into your brain. And this also
Mm.
goes into people because when you consume other people's lives, you're consuming their emotions. And if you can't create those boundaries between I'm listening to them as a friend, I'm there for them, I'm holding space for them, and then after that, I can go on with my day and it doesn't drain everything out of me. Like if you're not able to have those boundaries, other people's problems will become your problems, other people's shit will become your shit. And it's one thing to try to help, it's another thing to take it upon yourself like it's your burden to carry when it's not. So, not consuming negative content, negative people, and just like guarding your mind like you would a freaking gold vault. Like you would the most important thing in your life because it is the most important thing. So, Mans, I know that in the experiences that you had with like friendships and whatnot, where you had to like stop certain friendships because they were maybe
Mm.
not necessarily negative, but just not didn't bring the kind of energy or the environment that you wanted. So if you feel
Mhm.
comfortable to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was really just the one friendship, that primary friendship that was kind of like a business crossover, but yeah, I mentioned it a little before. Like on my end, I very much so felt like, ooh, like we're friends. And because it was presented that way, right? Like I was told, you're one of my friends. But the reality boiled down to like the actions were not aligning with the words. So just, that was one thing I pulled away from. Honestly, one of the things that came up as I'm listening to you talk was like there was a bodybuilder on social media this year, and I'm gonna leave this in 2025, but basically called me overweight, and I was like, you know what? I'm in off season. I don't need this. And like previously, like no issues between them. And I was like, you know what? I don't think I need to follow this individual. I don't think I need to talk to them. And it's not that I feel negative towards them or anything like that, but it didn't serve my headspace in any way, shape, or form. Off season's hard enough.
Yeah. It
But
just
that's
became
one way.
negative content that you didn't want to consume,
Yeah, I
negativity that
didn't.
you didn't want to consume.
I didn't. I was like, ooh, that didn't feel good. So you know what? Not gonna deal with it.
I love that.
And it's a boundary. Yeah.
It is. It is. And on the topic of off season, I want to quickly jump into these couple of points of things that we're not going to do next year. And I feel like these are things that we've grown out of, but these are hopefully little lessons and ideas that anyone who's listening could take from this. And that is A, training without intention, B, winging your nutrition, C, half-assing your goals, and
Don't do
D,
that.
repeating the same patterns. So I just like do through all of them, but all of them tie into things that don't serve you. And if you're going to repeat the same patterns going into next year of half-assing your training, of winging your nutrition, of not actually having support, of not of doing the bare minimum and expecting full results, like you will repeat the same patterns. And if the things that you're doing are working, please keep doing them. But if they're not, we made a episode about this. It's the input problem. Like it's
Mhm.
what are you putting into it that isn't working? Because clearly something isn't. And that leads me into, and I would love to hear your touch on this, but that leads me into something that ties into that, and we're leaving hyper independence in the past. And this is coming from someone who I thought I was gonna be like solo and ride solo forever, and that I'm doing everything by myself because that's just kind of like if you don't do it, no one's gonna do it for you. Like that's kind of how my mentality's always been. You figure it out on your own, you do it on your own, you do everything yourself. But when it comes to growth and true real growth, you ask for help. You have
Mhm.
accountability. You have support. You have strength. Like when you do everything alone, you can't do everything alone. There's a reason why they say to be a competitive bodybuilder, it takes a village. A successful competitive bodybuilder to
Mhm.
reach your fitness goals takes a village. It takes support. It takes being seen. It takes being heard. It takes accountability. It takes having a coach, not hyper independence. For me, hyper independence showed in one way, which I'll touch on in just a moment, but I would love to hear your thoughts on the mumbo jumbo that I just spit out about like training and nutrition and all of that.
Yeah, I love that you brought up hyper independence. And like I mean as far as like training and nutrition, guys, go back and listen to that episode for real if you need that reality check, which some of us do. I know I did at one point for sure. Um and then for me, what I learned was I also had those episodes where I would be hyper independent and it was a trauma response.
Yes,
It was
yes.
like this person fucked me over. You know what? I don't need no man. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. And it worked for a while, but it also cut me off from really beneficial like community, from friendships, from like professional relationships too. When, I can do it all myself. Girl, okay.
Even if you
Sure.
can, why should you? Why
Well,
should you have to do it all yourself?
right. And it's kind of like where you just need to set your ego aside and realize you're going to get a lot more growth. You're going to get a lot more like if we're looking at it from a coaching perspective, if you pick a coach, like if you can train yourself, if you're one of those people that can self-coach, kudos. Kudos. dose. The majority of us are going to do a lot better if we have a coach that's going to be objective, that's going to give feedback, that's going to be able to hold your hand when you need your hand held, be able to give it to you straight when you need a little shake and a wake up. You're going to grow so much faster with a community behind you than you would if you were busy playing Miss Independent,
Yeah.
period. That
Period.
doesn't mean you can't be independent, but open yourself up to community and to help when you need it and where you need it, and you will grow so much faster.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And I can relate to this from coaching. I can relate to this as an athlete because I hired a new coach at the late end of 2025 and I have true no, 2024, I'm sorry, and I have truly seen so much growth and I'm a coach myself. So like I could have coached myself, but I wanted someone else. I wanted someone to keep me like not even keep me accountable, but just be objective about it because when you're looking at yourself, like I was looking at my check-ins today and I was like, I'm watery, I'm holding on to a little bit of water here, I'm this, I'm that, and then I sent it to my coach and my coach was like, you look phenomenal for being this deep in your off season. Like we're not doing because I was like, maybe I need to do more cardio, maybe. And she was like, nothing, like not a damn thing. And I know, like, as a coach, that's the same thing I would tell my client if that was what they
Mhm.
needed, if that's based on like, my coaching understanding of like what they have going on. But as like when you're in it, it's hard to see these things because you're emotionally invested, you're emotionally blinded essentially. And I saw this in that way as an athlete. I saw it in work like my coaching business because, when we both branched off, I had a moment where I was like, all right, I'm off on my own. I have to figure out how to do this, that, and the third on my own. And then that lasted for such a short period of time because then I was like, no, because we're both, and I remember us getting on a call and I was like, we're both off on our own. But why would we be on our own when we can have each other? And like when we can bounce ideas off of each other and talk to each other and share client wins with each other and maybe get advice on certain client situations and certain just things that are going on. Like, and even do this together. Like this, I don't think I would have pulled the trigger on starting a podcast and posting on YouTube and doing all of that had we not been doing it together because it was something that felt scary and new to me. But being able to do this with you, I always just feel like I'm
Yeah.
talking to a friend and there's just a bunch of people listening, which thank you so much for being here and for listening. But that was such a great example of the
Mhm.
like stopping that hyper independence and like, yeah, I could do it on my own, but do I want to do it on my own? No, I don't. And it's so much more rewarding to get to share it with someone else. And the last way that
Mm.
that showed up for me was in personal relationships because when I was having fallouts with my family, I was like, I'll handle this on my own. I'll deal with this on my own. This isn't anyone's burden to carry. This isn't anyone's thing to hear. I don't want anyone to feel bad for me. I don't want anyone to try to fix this problem. Like, this is mine. This is my problem that I need to deal with. And the longer that I kept feeling like that, I felt like I was just bottling everything up inside and I was just not who I wanted to be. And no one like I couldn't also explain to people why I was the way that I was until I cracked. And when I cracked, it became so obvious like how much I want to say almost like easier it's been to
Mhm.
heal because I have the love and the support that I couldn't fully give myself because I was in the thick of it, if that makes sense. So being hyper independent could show up
Totally.
in so many ways and it very much could be a trauma response. It could be something that, I grew up raising my little sister. Like I grew up like as a little adult. So for me, I'm the one that was always responsible for everything and everyone. And to be able to put any kind of to not be completely independent and to depend on someone else was scary. So that is something that we're totally leaving. Now, branching off of the hyper independence that we're leaving behind, we're also going to leave the all or nothing mindset behind because one mistake is not a failure. Perfectionism is not a real thing. Perfectionism kills consistency, it kills progress. And progress does live in that gray area of I'm not there yet, but I'm working my way up to be there. So that is something that we are absolutely killing, as well as the self-limiting beliefs that you set for yourself and those identity labels. Every single time that you say, I'm not disciplined, I always fall off, I'm this, I'm that. Once you set that label to yourself, you make it real. You make it true. You make it a thing. So I want you to cut that and stop with the I'm broken and I can't, like, this is just the cards that I was dealt, and this, like, I'm not capable of doing that because you are capable of doing that. It requires the habits and requires the changes. So, Mans, I want to ask you, what is an identity label that you have either shed this year or you are shedding right now?
Yeah.
Tell
I
me.
shed so many. I shed so many. I mean, I think
You
that's
could
the beautiful.
spitball them out.
Yeah, it's a
What are
beautiful
you
part of
not
being.
anymore?
I am not codependent. I am not somebody that can't grow my glutes. As as my coach put it all out on social media this last week, and I was like, well, there it is. Okay,
I'm
totally
looking
what
at it.
I know. I was sitting there and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't grow anything." And he was like, "Bitch, shut up." In the most loving way. In the most loving way. He's just very like just like this big
Straightforward.
dude, straightforward, but with the biggest heart. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, well, great. So that is lost. I am leaving behind specifically, I talked a little bit about it on my episode too, but the no, I'm not being chosen. I'm not worthy of like being chosen and all those like old wounds as well. So leaving the identities is huge.
Yeah.
But I just want to say, as you spoke about the perfectionism, if you're somebody that thinks in your brain, like, I'm never going to reach my goal, I'm never going to grow my glutes, like Sasha said, if you say it in your mind, you're making it real. So the first step is just being mindful that you even thought about it and then reframing it to my glutes are growing in progress. Like it's growing in progress. It's happening. It's happening. It's not
Yeah.
overnight. It's happening right now.
I'm doing it.
I am doing the thing.
I'm doing the thing. And I want to add to that the last and final big thing that we are leaving behind in 2025, and there's so many more that I can add on. And gosh, I want to do a part two, and maybe we will in January.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest things that ties into that is avoiding personal responsibility. Because if your glutes aren't growing, there may be something that you're not doing right. You may not be training with intention. You may not be training hard enough. You may not be eating enough. You may have some other issue that you need to solve first, like some inflammation or some internal things that you need to get real with yourself and get down to business and solve it in order to move forward. Because I personally believe that everyone is capable of doing whatever they want to do. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you hang out around me for long enough, and I will make you think that you can walk on the freaking moon. Like, I think that everyone has, if you have it in your heart and you have it in your mind, you can do it. Like, not to be corny, like Nike, well, just do it. No.
Just
But, like, seriously, if you have it in your mind and you have it in your heart, you are capable of doing the damn thing. It's a matter of stop avoiding personal responsibility, take responsibility for the actions that you're doing or not doing, make a
Mhm.
change. Make a change. You are upset because you were dealt certain cards. All right, you got dealt those cards. Now what are you going to do? What are you
Mm.
choosing to do next? Are you going to throw yourself a pity party or are you going to put on your big boy pants and do something with yourself? And I know that sounds a little bit harsh, but sometimes you need to hear the harsh truth because what you don't do, like every time that you don't show up for yourself, you don't show up for yourself. Like you're
Mhm.
choosing, you're making the choice, you're making the decision to not show up for yourself, and then you're blaming things, time, stress, schedule, things that are never going to stop happening. The clock is not going to stop, the world's not going to stop spinning, no one's going to wait for you. No one's going to wait for you to catch up and to do your thing. So, sorry if that was a little bit rough, but life is hard. It's may get easier at certain times, but regardless, who do you want to be? What are you choosing to do? And taking that personal responsibility, it's hard because you have to look at yourself and be like, ooh, I
Mm.
was feeling these ways because maybe I had a bad experience or maybe I had some personal trauma. But it's also your responsibility to work through that to be a better person, to be better for yourself
Mhm.
and better for the people around you. And that's something that I'm currently right now also telling myself because None of us are perfect, and that's beautiful because we're all still working on things to be better. But it's a matter of we're choosing to be responsible for the ways and the things that we need to improve on. And then we are taking steps to make that improvement.
Mm-hmm. Word. Girl, I'm always gonna pick the big boy pants anyway because I like to wear my pants like a size or two
A
bigger.
size or two. No, literally me with my oversized men's Young
Oh,
LA pants. Not
same right
sponsored,
now.
but Young LA could definitely, send me like an affiliate link or something.
Yeah, reach out.
But to close that out, Mans, I wanna just open up the floor for you. Is there any other thing, lesson, habit, anything that you could think of that the peeps should not be taking with them?
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea to take an inventory about where you're at right now and what you're not happy with. And every single thing that you write down that you're not happy with, I don't know if you need to ritualistically or symbolically like write it down, burn it or whatever, but before you burn it or get rid of it or throw it away or do whatever you need to do, look at all of those things that you're not happy with and ask yourself how much of these things are in my control. And then what are you going to do in 2026 to make sure that December 31st, 2026, you don't have the same list?
Yeah.
That's what I'd say.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to end this off by saying that you don't need to overhaul your entire life. If there are a lot of things that you want to change, I want you to start with picking one or two habits out of that list of the things that you want to do different. One to two habits, one to two things that you're going to leave in 2025 and make the conscious decision to stop carrying what no longer serves you. And as you start building trust within yourself by, okay, I didn't people please this time. Cool. Building trust for yourself. Oh, I didn't. All or nothing mindset. Cool. Another little dollar in your piggy bank. I wasn't hyper dependent and I actually asked my friend for help when I needed it. Bam, another one. And you start taking those votes for yourself. And as you do that, you're able to show up differently. So
Mm,
anyone who struggled this year, take those struggles as lessons. And Mandy and I actually did a podcast on the biggest lessons of 2025 over on her channel. So once that's up and live, that's going to be the last video of hers on her podcast for
mm,
2025. And go ahead, take a listen to that. We dropped some bombs in there as well. I hope that anything that doesn't serve you in 2025 stays there and you come in beautifully into the upcoming year. But just remember, nothing changes if nothing changes. So
mm,
take the time to make the changes. It might be uncomfortable, it might hurt, it might suck a little bit. But when you rewatch this episode in 2026 and think
mm,
about the things that you don't want to take into 2026, 2027 with you, hopefully your list looks different and smaller and doesn't have as many things on it. So that is it. That is all. Thank you again so much for tuning in and for being a part of this Sculpt Session fam. It's been so fun starting up this pod chat in 2025. This is something that I'm definitely taking along with me into 2026 and going to continue growing. You subscribing, liking, commenting, rating the podcast if you're listening on Spotify helps the channel grow tremendously. So if you want us to keep doing these, show your love, show your support, always appreciated. Leave a comment of something that you're leaving. Drop a comment below of what you're leaving in 2025 and maybe a new habit that you want to pick up in 2026. Can't wait to connect with all of you and thank you again so much for tuning in. Bye.